Silence comes first. Not the quiet of a closed room, but the deep, endless silence where sound has nowhere to travel. A single point of light cuts through that darkness, racing forward at a speed nothing can outrun. No engine noise. No trail. Just light, moving through emptiness, crossing distances the human mind was never built to imagine. That journey takes time, real time. And the distance it crosses has a name that sounds simple, almost harmless. A light year. But what does that really mean? And why does understanding it change how we see everything? Distance is something the human brain understands well. It is woven into daily life, the walk to a nearby store, the drive to work, the long road to another city. These distances make sense because they are lived. They are felt in tired legs, in passing scenery, in minutes ticking away. A kilometer is friendly. It fits inside experience. You know how long it takes. You know what it feels like. You can picture the journey without effort. These are human distances. Distances shaped by survival, by walking, by seeing the horizon and knowing how far you can go before night falls. For thousands of generations this was enough. But space does not care what humans evolve to understand. As distances grow, familiar numbers begin to fail. The distance across a continent still feels possible. A long flight. A changing landscape below. Mountains, plains, oceans, large but manageable. Even the size of Earth, vast as it once seemed, remains graspable. A world that can be circled. A surface that can be mapped. A sphere that can be crossed, slowly or quickly. Then Earth ends. Beyond the atmosphere, there are no roads. No landmarks. No sense of scale. Just separation. The moon hangs close in the sky, bright and familiar. And yet, reaching it takes days of non-stop motion. Days of falling through space at speeds that would feel unreal on Earth. Even this nearest neighbor sits far beyond everyday understanding. And still, this is nothing. When distances stretch beyond the moon, numbers begin to lose meaning. Millions of kilometers, then hundreds of millions, then billions. Symbols on a page, no longer journeys the mind can follow. The sun feels close. It warms the skin, it lights the day. But even its light takes time to arrive. Minutes pass while photons cross the gap. What is seen is never now, it is always the past. This delay grows quietly, relentlessly, with distance. Light is fast. Unimaginably fast. Faster than anything else that exists. It races around the planet multiple times in a single second, stitching continents together before a heartbeat finishes. And yet, even that speed is not infinite. Light needs time. This is the crack in intuition. The moment where the universe stops behaving in ways the brain expects. Light does not arrive instantly. It travels. It moves. It crosses space piece by piece. When something happens far away, the information does not appear everywhere at once. It must journey outward, limited by a cosmic speed that nothing can break. This is why distance and time are no longer separate. A light year is not a year. It is not time passing. It is distance revealed through motion. The length light can travel while a planet completes a single orbit around its star. Second by second, minute by minute, day by day, light surges forward, never slowing, never resting, covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers every heartbeat. By the time 1 year has passed, light has crossed a distance so vast, it defies intuition. Trillions of kilometers, trillions of individual steps, each one longer than any human walk. This is the unit the universe demands. Kilometers collapse under this scale. They become clutter, endless zeros that explain nothing. They stop feeling like distance and start feeling like noise. Light years simplify what cannot be made small. They turn overwhelming separation into something that can be compared. 4 light years. 40. 400. Ratios emerge. Patterns appear. More importantly, light years connect distance to history. To look far away is to look back. Every photon carries a timestamp, a record of when it left its source. Nothing seen across space is current. Everything is delayed. The moon is seen as it was seconds ago. The sun, minutes ago. The stars, years ago. Some, centuries ago. The night sky is not a snapshot. It is a layered archive, a collage of moments spread across time, arriving together at the same instant, even though they began their journeys ages apart. This is where the scale becomes unsettling. Some of the light reaching Earth tonight began traveling before cities existed, before writing, before history itself had a name. It crossed empty space while civilizations rose and fell, while continents shifted, while generations lived and vanished. And it arrives now. Quietly. Without announcement. The universe does not rush. It operates on distances so vast that human lifetimes barely register. Stars drift, galaxies turn, space itself stretches, slowly pulling everything apart. Against this backdrop, a single planet thinks about distance and gives it a name. A light year. Not because it is elegant. Not because it is poetic. But because nothing smaller can survive contact with reality at this scale. This is not a number meant to be felt. It is a boundary, a warning, a reminder that space is not empty in a friendly way, but empty in a way that separates everything. And yet it also connects. Every glance upward is an act of reaching across light years. Every star seen is proof that the universe allows information to travel, even if it takes years, centuries, or longer to arrive. The question is no longer how far things are. The question is what it means to live in a universe where distance itself reshapes time. The journey begins by shrinking things back down. Back to where distance still feels reasonable. Back to where the mind can hold scale without breaking. A step. A street. A familiar route walked so many times it no longer needs thought. These distances live inside the body. They are learned through repetition. Muscles remember them. Eyes expect what comes next. Time and distance feel like partners, moving together in ways that make sense. This is how humans learn to measure the world. By walking it, by crossing it, by surviving inside it. But space does not offer footsteps. When distance stretches beyond what can be crossed by effort, the rules quietly change. 100 kilometers still feels possible. A few hours. A moving landscape. Fatigue that fades when the journey ends. Even thousands of kilometers remain understandable. A long flight. A full day lost to motion. The planet rolling beneath metal wings. But then Earth becomes small. From orbit, continents shrink into shapes. Borders vanish. The planet reveals itself as a single object suspended in darkness. Distance here is no longer about travel. It is about separation. The moon hangs nearby, close enough to feel reachable. Close enough to look familiar. Close enough to fool intuition. Yet crossing that gap takes days. Days of constant motion through nothing. No air, no landmarks. Just velocity and trust in equations. This is the first warning. Even nearby space is not nearby at all. 3 days to reach the moon. At speeds that make earthbound travel seem frozen. At energies that strain technology to its limits. And still, this is a short trip by cosmic standards. Beyond the moon, numbers begin to blur. Distances stretch into millions of kilometers. Then hundreds of millions. The sun waits at a remove so vast that even its light needs minutes to arrive. That delay is invisible to the senses, but it is real. The light touching Earth right now left the sun earlier. What is seen is memory. What is felt is history arriving late. This delay is small enough to ignore. At first. But distance does not stop growing. As separation increases, the lag becomes impossible to hide. Minutes turn into hours, hours into days, communication stretches, control loosens. The universe refuses immediacy. This is when light reveals its true role. Light is not just illumination. It is information. Every signal, every image, every observation rides on its back. And light has a speed. A fixed speed. A speed nothing outruns. No matter how advanced the technology, information cannot arrive faster than light allows. The universe enforces patience. This changes everything. Commands sent across space arrive late. Responses return later still. The farther the distance, the more autonomy is forced upon whatever waits on the other end. Even within a single planetary system, this delay reshapes exploration. Machines must think for themselves, plans must be written in advance, mistakes cannot be corrected instantly. Space does not allow second-by-second control. And beyond the local neighborhood, the delay becomes absolute. When distance stretches to years at light speed, time itself becomes a wall. Messages arrive from the past, replies are sent into a future the sender will never see. This is where the light year becomes unavoidable. A light year is not chosen for drama. It is chosen because the universe leaves no alternative. When distances grow beyond planets, beyond orbits, beyond systems, they must be measured in the only thing that still behaves consistently: light. Light years turn impossible numbers into something structured. They allow comparison. They reveal proportion. They show how far, not just in space but in time. 1 light second already dwarfs human experience. 1 light minute stretches beyond comfort. 1 light hour feels unreal. A single light day surpasses everything built or traveled by humanity. And still, this is not yet interstellar. Stars wait at distances where light years become small units. Where even the closest neighbor remains separated by multiple years of travel at the fastest speed allowed by reality. The mind resists this. It tries to shrink the scale. It tries to imagine shortcuts. It searches for familiar anchors. But space does not negotiate. Between stars lies an emptiness so deep that even light needs years to cross it. No wind, no friction, no sound, just separation. This emptiness defines the structure of the universe. Stars are not packed together, they are islands, vastly spaced, each one ruling a tiny domain, isolated by darkness. From a distance, galaxies look crowded. From within, they are lonely. This is the paradox of scale. Up close, everything is far apart. From afar, everything blurs together. The light year allows both views to coexist. It preserves the true distances without collapsing them into abstraction. And with it comes a realization that is hard to escape. Every observation is delayed. Every view is incomplete. Every measurement is a glimpse into what once was, not what is. The universe never shows itself in real time. It shows echoes. This means the night sky is not a present moment, it is a layered archive. Nearby stars whisper recent stories. Distant ones speak from deep history. Some of the light arriving now began its journey before humanity learned to measure distance at all. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is physical fact. Distance in space is not just length, it is memory stretched thin across darkness. The light year exists because nothing else survives this truth. No human unit can hold it, no intuition can tame it. And yet understanding it is the first step toward understanding where we are. A small world, orbiting one star, separated from everything else by distances measured not in travel, but in time itself. The question that follows is unavoidable. If this is how space separates stars, what does it mean for anything trying to cross between them? The scale keeps rising. Slowly at first. Then, all at once. What felt distant begins to feel unreachable. Between planets, light still feels generous. Minutes of delay, hours at most. Signals stretch, but they arrive. Machines wait. Commands return. The universe allows patience but not despair. Between stars, patience is no longer enough. Here, distance becomes something else entirely. A nearby star looks close in the sky. A bright point. A steady glow. But that glow has already traveled for years before it reaches waiting eyes. It crossed a gulf so wide that even light, moving faster than anything else that exists, needed years to complete the journey. This is the moment where the light year stops being a concept and starts becoming a barrier. 4 light years sounds small. It is not. 4 light years is light racing without rest for 4 full revolutions of a planet around its star. 4 years of uninterrupted motion, no detours, no slowing, no stopping. Anything slower arrives far too late. The fastest machines ever built would take thousands of years to cross that same gap. Civilizations would rise and fall while the journey continued. Languages would change. Species might vanish. The destination would still be waiting. This is why stars feel frozen in place. They barely move relative to one another on human timescales. The distances are too large, motion becomes subtle, change becomes slow. Space is not crowded. It is profoundly empty. If the sun were reduced to the size of a grain of sand, the nearest star would be kilometers away. In between, nothing. Just darkness. This emptiness is not accidental. It is the natural outcome of gravity and time. Matter clumps where it can, and everything else stretches apart. The light year reveals this truth without mercy. Stars are not neighbors. They are distant relatives, barely connected except by ancient photons crossing a silent void. And those photons are all that ever arrive. No ship. No signal faster than light. No shortcut that ignores the rules. Information moves at light speed, and that speed defines everything that can be known. This has consequences. When a signal is sent across a light year, it does not arrive late. It arrives exactly when physics allows. There is no workaround. No clever engineering solution waiting to be discovered. The universe does not care about urgency. This means every observation of distant space is delayed by design. Nothing is seen as it is. Everything is seen as it was. A star might look calm while it is already changing. A galaxy might appear intact while its structure is shifting. An explosion might have already happened, its evidence still traveling through darkness. The universe hides nothing. It simply makes waiting unavoidable. As distance grows, time separation grows with it. Past and present pull apart. The farther away something is, the older its image becomes. Look far enough, and the universe turns into a history book. Galaxies billions of light-years away appear young, chaotic, bright with new stars. Their light began traveling when the universe itself was still forming structure. That light arrives now, telling stories that ended billions of years ago. This is the unsettling power of the light year. It ties distance to memory so tightly that they cannot be separated. To ask how far something is becomes the same as asking how long ago it existed. And there is no limit to how far this goes. The farther the gaze travels, the deeper the past becomes, until eventually the light arrives from a time before stars like the sun even existed. Before planets. Before life. Before structure itself. This is where the universe begins to feel fragile. Because everything visible is temporary. Every star is a phase. Every galaxy is evolving. Nothing stays as it appears. The night sky feels stable only because the changes happen on timescales longer than human lives. The light year exposes this illusion. It shows that permanence is a trick of distance and delay. And yet, despite this, the universe remains connected. Every atom in the body was once inside a star. Heavy elements were forged in extreme heat, scattered by explosions, recycled into new systems. The same physics governs every corner of space, the same rules, the same constants. Light years separate stars, but they do not separate laws. This is why understanding distance matters. Not just for measurement, but for meaning. It explains why exploration slows as it expands outward. Why control fades with distance. Why autonomy becomes mandatory in deep space. It explains why contact between distant worlds would never be immediate. Why messages would arrive as artifacts, not conversations. Years would pass between questions and answers. Decisions would be made in isolation. Entire generations would live and die before replies returned. Distance reshapes society before any ship ever launches. A world 4 light-years away would not feel connected. It would feel independent by necessity. Culture would drift. Language would evolve. Values would diverge. Not through conflict, but through silence. This is the quiet force of the light year. It separates without hostility. It isolates without intent. And it does not stop at stars. Galaxies themselves are separated by millions of light years. Entire collections of stars drifting apart as space expands between them. The universe grows larger every moment, not because things are moving faster, but because space itself is stretching. Distant galaxies recede, carried away by expansion no engine can resist. Some already move beyond reach, their light will never arrive. They exist, but forever unseen. This creates a horizon, a limit not of vision, but of causality. Beyond it, events can never affect what happens here. The light year marks the edge of influence. Inside it, connection exists, delayed but possible. Beyond it, separation becomes permanent. This is not theory. It is observation. The universe enforces distance at every scale, from planets to stars, from stars to galaxies, from galaxies to the edge of what can be known. The light year is the ruler used to measure this enforcement. It tells the truth plainly. Space is vast. Change is slow. And nothing is as close as it appears. The closer something looks, the more deceptive the sky becomes. Because the nearest star is still years away. And the nearest galaxy is already millions. And beyond those distances the universe keeps going, quietly expanding into darkness that light itself has not yet crossed. Understanding distance leads to a harder realization. Space does not just separate places. It separates moments. Every step outward stretches time thin. What begins as a delay becomes a divide, a gap no amount of patience can fully close. Light years do not simply describe how far something is, they describe how disconnected it must be. Between stars, cause and effect slow down. Actions lose immediacy. Reactions arrive too late to matter. This changes the nature of everything that tries to exist across those distances. Messages become artifacts. Observations become archaeology. Connection becomes memory. A signal sent today arrives years from now. A reply returns years after that. Conversations dissolve into single statements spaced across decades. By the time an answer comes back, the question no longer belongs to the same world. This is not inconvenience. It is a structural limit. The universe does not allow instant awareness across large distances. It enforces separation through time itself. This makes interstellar space feel hostile without ever acting. No storms, no violence, just distance doing its work. Even travel bends under this pressure. No engine can ignore the speed of light. No shortcut has ever been proven to exist. Every attempt to move faster runs into the same barrier. The universe resists urgency. As speed increases, time begins to distort, clocks fall out of sync, motion warps duration. Space itself adjusts to protect the cosmic speed limit. These effects are not theoretical, they are measured, they are real. They happen because light speed must remain constant for all observers. The faster something moves, the more time slows for it, not symbolically, physically. Processes stretch, lifetimes extend, aging decelerates. From the traveler's perspective, nothing feels strange, but from the outside, everything changes. This creates a paradox. Distance can be crossed by sacrificing time. A journey that takes years to observers can feel short to the traveler, months, days, even moments depending on speed. But the universe collects its payment elsewhere. While the traveler ages slowly, the rest of the universe moves on. Civilizations change, stars shift, histories rewrite themselves. Returning means arriving in a future that no longer remembers the departure. This is the hidden cost of approaching light speed. It does not erase distance. It relocates it into time. The light year makes this trade unavoidable. To cross it quickly, time must stretch. To preserve time, speed must slow. There is no third option. This reshapes every idea of exploration. A journey to another star is not just a trip through space, it is a leap across eras, a severing from continuity. What leaves is not what returns. This is why stars feel unreachable, even when physics allows motion. The cost is not fuel alone, it is history. Even perfect technology cannot restore what distance removes. Communication suffers the same fate. No matter how advanced the transmitter, no matter how clear the signal, It cannot outrun light. A civilization broadcasting its presence sends messages into the dark, knowing they will arrive long after the moment has passed. Listeners hear echoes, not voices. By the time a signal is detected, its source may have changed beyond recognition, or vanished entirely. This means contact, if it ever happens, will never be immediate. It will always be delayed, fragmented, incomplete. The light year enforces solitude. Even in a universe filled with stars and planets, each world exists inside its own bubble of time. Events inside that bubble unfold faster than the universe can share them. This isolation is not emotional. It is physical. It is written into the structure of space-time. Understanding this reframes everything. The night sky becomes a museum of moments, some recent, some ancient, all preserved by the finite speed of light. Stars shine calmly, even if they are already changing. Explosions wait invisibly, their light still en route. The universe is full of events that have already happened, but have not yet arrived. This makes certainty impossible. No observation can confirm the present state of a distant object, only its past. This uncertainty grows with distance. At light-year scales, it becomes fundamental. This is why exploration becomes cautious, why planning stretches years ahead, why autonomy replaces control. Machines sent far from home must decide for themselves. Help arrives too late. Instructions follow outdated assumptions. Distance demands independence. This truth extends beyond machines. Any attempt to build a presence beyond a single star must accept separation as permanent. Governance from afar fails. Culture diverges. Identity drifts. Distance creates difference without conflict. A world light-years away becomes its own center of experience, its own present, its own history. Messages from home arrive as relics. Orders lose relevance. Advice becomes outdated. Authority fades into memory. The light year does not just separate stars. It separates futures. Even within a single lifetime, it can place experiences out of reach, beyond return, beyond shared time. And yet this separation is not cruel. It is simply indifferent. The universe does not punish ambition. It simply charges in a currency that cannot be avoided: time. To go farther is to leave more behind. Every light year crossed stretches the gap between departure and return, between cause and effect, between intention and outcome. Understanding this does not make the universe smaller. It makes it honest. It reveals that space is not meant to be conquered quickly. It unfolds on scales that dwarf urgency. The light year stands as the quiet rulekeeper of this reality, a unit that measures not just distance but consequence. And the farther outward attention drifts, the clearer this becomes. Exploration is possible. Connection is possible. But immediacy is not. The universe speaks slowly. And it listens slowly. And in that slowness, entire histories pass unnoticed. There is a moment when scale stops expanding gently. A point where understanding turns heavy. Up close, the universe feels active. Signals move. Machines respond. Light arrives soon enough to feel present. But as distance stretches into light years, something essential is lost. Immediacy disappears. What remains is delay so long it reshapes meaning itself. A message sent across interstellar space does not feel like communication, it feels like a time capsule. By the time it arrives, the sender has changed, the receiver has changed. The context that gave the message purpose may no longer exist. This is the crisis hidden inside the light year. Connection fractures under time. Even the nearest stars sit far beyond the reach of shared moments. 4 light years is not just 4 times farther than 1. It is 4 years of waiting for information that cannot be rushed. Nothing can fix this. No improvement in power. No refinement in engineering. No clever design. The universe does not allow shortcuts through time. This is why interstellar space feels so unforgiving. Not because it is violent, but because it is indifferent. It stretches moments until they break. A civilization reaching toward the stars must accept this loss, the loss of feedback, the loss of control, the loss of synchrony. Decisions must be made alone. Once a signal leaves, it cannot be recalled. Once a craft departs, it becomes isolated. Once a colony forms, it drifts beyond shared time. This is the point where ambition meets reality. Exploration does not fail here, but expectation does. The idea of staying connected while spreading outward collapses under the weight of light years. Even at perfect light speed, time refuses to cooperate. A single exchange between distant worlds could take longer than a human lifetime. Generations would live and die between questions and answers. History would move on while replies traveled. This turns communication into inheritance. Messages are no longer meant for individuals. They are addressed to futures, to descendants, to people not yet born. The light year transforms speech into legacy. And this legacy carries uncertainty. A warning might arrive too late. A discovery might lose relevance. A celebration might be received as mourning. Distance strips intention from outcome. The farther the reach, the weaker the grip. This reality changes how progress itself must be imagined. Technology cannot erase the universe's structure, it must adapt to it. That means autonomy becomes essential. Machines must decide without instruction. Worlds must govern without oversight. Societies must evolve without constant reinforcement. Distance forces independence. And independence breeds difference. Cultures diverge. Values shift. Priorities change. Over time, worlds separated by light years become strangers, even if they share origins. This divergence is not caused by hostility. It is caused by silence. Light years stretch silence into permanence. Even the universe itself participates in this separation. Space expands. Galaxies drift apart. The farther away something is, the faster it recedes. Some regions are already unreachable. Their light will never arrive. Their events will never matter here. They exist outside influence. This creates a horizon, a boundary beyond which cause and effect can no longer cross, beyond which connection becomes impossible. The universe is finite in what it can share. This is the deepest crisis of scale. Not that the universe is large, but that it is isolating. It allows existence without contact, life without awareness of others, minds thinking alone in distant pockets of space. This realization carries weight. If there are others out there, they are separated by years of silence. If they send messages, those messages arrive as ghosts. By the time they are heard, the senders may be gone. The night sky becomes a field of unanswered questions. This is not loneliness in a human sense. It is cosmic solitude. A solitude imposed not by emptiness but by distance. The light year measures this solitude with precision. It quantifies how long silence must last. And yet, within this isolation, something remains. Connection still exists, even if delayed. Light still travels. Information still moves. The universe does not cut ties completely. It stretches them thin. Every photon crossing space is proof that separation is not absolute. That the universe allows contact, even if it demands patience beyond imagination. This is the quiet hope hidden inside the crisis. Despite everything, light arrives. No matter how far it travels, it carries truth forward. It preserves moments. It connects cause to effect, however late. The universe does not erase events. It delays them. And those delays define reality. Understanding this does not diminish the universe, it clarifies it. It shows what is possible and what is not. The light year stands as a boundary between dreams that respect physics and fantasies that ignore it. It tells us where ambition must slow, where expectations must change, where humility becomes necessary. Because the universe will not bend to urgency. It moves at its own pace. And that pace is measured in light years. After the weight of distance settles, something unexpected appears. Not despair, but clarity. When immediacy vanishes, intention sharpens. The universe does not forbid exploration, it simply demands commitment measured in time rather than distance. Once this is understood, a different kind of possibility emerges. Light years do not make connection impossible. They make it deliberate. Every signal sent must matter. Every mission launched must be worth the years of silence that follow. There is no room for impulse, no room for correction. This forces precision. Messages become careful, missions become purposeful, exploration becomes an act of trust placed into the future. This is not weakness. It is discipline. The light year reshapes ambition into patience. Even within a single star system, this lesson appears early. Delays stretch, control fades, machines learn to decide without instruction. These early challenges are not failures. They are rehearsals. They teach autonomy. They teach resilience. They teach systems to survive without constant guidance. By the time distances stretch into years, these lessons are no longer optional. Exploration beyond a star demands self-reliance at every level. Energy systems must last. Navigation must be flawless. Decision-making must happen locally. Help will not arrive in time. This reality filters what is attempted. Only what can endure isolation is worth sending. In this way, light years act as a natural selection pressure on ideas. Weak plans fail before launch. Fragile systems never leave. Only the most robust survive the silence. This changes the meaning of progress. Progress is no longer about speed. It is about endurance. A civilization that reaches for the stars must think in centuries, not years. It must value continuity over immediacy, stability over rapid change. This mindset alters priorities. Knowledge must be preserved, not just transmitted. Culture must be adaptable, not rigid. Technology must be repairable without external support. The farther outward attention reaches, the more inward planning must go. This balance creates a quiet optimism. The universe is not hostile to intelligence. It simply filters for maturity. Light years do not punish curiosity. They reward preparation. They ensure that anything capable of crossing them has learned patience, foresight, and respect for limits. This perspective changes how isolation is seen. Isolation is not abandonment. It is responsibility. A world separated by light years must care for itself. It must solve its own problems. It must become its own center. This independence can be fragile or strong, depending on what is built. The light year gives no assistance, but it also offers no interference. Freedom grows with distance. This is why distant exploration has meaning beyond discovery. It forces civilizations to confront what they truly value. What is worth preserving across decades of silence? What knowledge deserves to survive the loss of immediacy? What stories are important enough to send forward into the unknown? These are not technical questions. They are human ones. Light years turn exploration into philosophy. They strip away convenience and leave intention exposed. And in doing so, they offer a strange kind of hope. Because despite the vastness, despite the silence, the universe remains comprehensible. The same rules apply everywhere. The same physics governs every region. Light behaves the same in every direction. Time stretches the same way. Space responds predictably. This consistency is an invitation. It means understanding gained here applies everywhere. Knowledge does not decay with distance. Truth does not weaken across light years. Only access does. The universe may be large, but it is not chaotic. It follows rules that can be learned, tested, and trusted. This is why exploration continues despite the barriers. Not because it is easy, but because it is possible in principle. And because the act of trying reshapes those who attempt it. To think in light years is to think beyond a single lifetime. It forces attention outward and forward simultaneously. It connects present action to distant consequence. This shift in perspective changes how time itself is valued. Moments become threads in a longer tapestry. Individual lives become contributions to processes that extend beyond them. The light year invites this long view. It suggests that meaning does not require immediacy, that impact does not require proximity, that significance can be delayed. A message sent today may not be read for decades. A discovery made now may not matter until long after. A decision taken in one generation may shape the lives of many to come. This does not diminish the present. It deepens it. Because every action becomes part of a longer arc. The universe moves slowly, but it remembers everything that light carries. And light carries everything. Every reflection, every emission, every signal. Nothing is lost. Only delayed. This is the quiet reassurance hidden inside cosmic distance. No matter how far apart things are, the universe allows information to travel. It never stops light from moving forward. Light years do not erase connection. They stretch it. And stretched connections still hold, if they are built with care. The challenge is not distance. The challenge is patience. And patience, once learned, changes everything. The long view changes the tone of exploration. Urgency fades. Endurance takes its place. When time becomes the true distance, goals shift naturally, no longer about arrival alone, but about what survives the journey. The universe does not reward haste. It rewards continuity. At light-year scales, failure is quiet. There are no dramatic endings. No final alarms heard in time. There is only silence where a signal was expected. This is the risk that defines deep space. Not destruction, but disappearance. A probe stops transmitting. A message never arrives. A presence fades without witness. Distance absorbs mistakes without comment. Because of this, every attempt must be built as if it will be alone forever. Systems must endure neglect. Knowledge must be embedded. Purpose must be resilient to misunderstanding. This is the climax of scale, where ambition stands fully exposed. To send anything across light years is to accept uncertainty as permanent. There is no guarantee of success, no assurance of understanding, no promise of return. Only commitment. This commitment transforms exploration into something closer to faith, not belief without evidence, but action without reassurance. A leap made knowing the outcome will not be seen by those who begin it. This is where the emotional weight peaks. Because light years do not just separate locations, they separate witnesses from outcomes. They ask for effort without reward. And still, the effort continues. Why? Because understanding is not transactional. Because curiosity does not demand immediate payoff. Because the act of reaching outward reshapes the one who reaches. The universe offers no applause. No confirmation. Only truth, revealed slowly. And that slowness carries meaning. It teaches restraint, it teaches humility, it teaches that existence is larger than any single moment. At the peak of this realization, something becomes clear. The light year is not an obstacle placed in the universe. It is the shape of the universe itself. It defines how information flows, how causality works, how separation and connection coexist. Nothing is broken. Nothing is unfair. The universe is simply vast. And within that vastness, persistence becomes the highest form of courage. To act knowing results may never be seen. To explore knowing contact may never return. To send knowledge forward knowing it may arrive to silence. This is not failure. It is maturity. Civilizations capable of thinking in light years are no longer driven by immediacy. They act with patience, foresight, and acceptance of limits. This changes what success means. Success is no longer arrival. It is continuity. The passing of understanding from one era to the next, the preservation of knowledge against time, the willingness to contribute to a future that may never acknowledge the past. Light years demand this mindset. They strip away illusion and leave responsibility. At this scale, exploration is no longer about conquering space. It is about respecting it. The universe cannot be rushed. It can only be joined. And joining requires alignment with its tempo. Slow, measured, enduring. This is the summit of understanding. Distance is not the enemy. Impatience is. Light years teach this lesson without words, without force, without compromise. They simply exist. And anyone who looks far enough must learn to live with them. After the peak comes a quiet shift. Not resolution, but settling. The universe does not rush conclusions. It lets understanding sink in slowly, like light fading after a long journey. Once the scale is accepted, fear loses its edge. Distance stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like context. A frame that defines what is possible without judgment. The silence between stars is no longer empty. It is full of meaning. Every gap, every delay, every unreachable place becomes part of a larger pattern. A structure that explains why the universe looks the way it does and behaves the way it must. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is accidental. Light years are not barriers placed in the way of exploration, they are the fabric that holds the universe together. With this understanding, perspective changes. A single planet feels rare. A stable star feels precious. A moment of awareness feels significant. Life exists not because the universe makes it easy, but because it allows it at all. Against distances measured in light years, even fragile things matter. This reframes isolation. To be separated is not to be abandoned, it is to be distinct, to have space to unfold independently, without interference. Every world becomes its own experiment. Every star system its own story. The universe is not a crowded room. It is a vast library. Each book sits far from the others, written slowly, read rarely, but preserved by distance. Light carries those stories outward, page by page, photon by photon. Some are read soon. Others wait millions of years for an audience. Most will never be read at all. And yet, they are written anyway. This is where the weight of scale becomes gentle. The universe does not demand that everything be seen or known, it allows existence for its own sake. A star can shine for billions of years without being observed, a planet can circle in darkness without witness, life can rise and fall without record. Meaning does not require attention. Understanding this releases a quiet pressure. Exploration is no longer about conquest or proof. It becomes about participation. To study the universe is to join its rhythm, to accept its pace, to listen more than to speak. Light years teach this humility. They make it clear that the universe does not revolve around observers. Observers are simply part of what unfolds. This awareness reshapes curiosity. Questions become broader, patience grows deeper, answers are allowed to take time. The need to rush fades. Because in a universe measured in light years, urgency is always misplaced. The stars will still be there tomorrow. And the day after. And long after any single life has ended. This continuity offers comfort. It means mistakes are not final, that learning is cumulative. That understanding grows across generations, not moments. Knowledge does not belong to individuals. It belongs to time. Light years ensure this. They stretch the handoff between minds, forcing ideas to survive beyond their creators. What endures is what matters. This is why astronomy feels different from other sciences. It deals not just with objects, but with epochs, not just with motion but with history. To observe is to receive something ancient. To calculate is to connect present thought with past reality. The universe becomes a conversation carried out across centuries, with pauses measured in years of travel. And each observation adds a line. Even now, light is arriving that left its source before modern civilization existed. It carries information that waited patiently through wars, migrations, discoveries, and forgetting. It arrives indifferent to what happened along the way. It simply arrives. This patience is the universe's defining trait. It does not hurry. It does not insist. It does not adapt to expectation. It continues. Understanding light years aligns thought with this continuity. It teaches that not everything important happens quickly, that significance is often delayed, that some truths require distance to be seen clearly. The farther back in time something began, the larger its context becomes. This is why the oldest light reveals the youngest universe. Why distant galaxies show chaos and brightness. Why structure emerges slowly. Light years allow time to unfold visibly. They turn the universe into a layered record of its own becoming. And within that record, A small planet thinks. A species measures distances it cannot cross, names scales it cannot feel, understands laws it did not create. This is not arrogance. It is awareness. The universe does not require observers, but observers can learn from it. Light years are the language of that learning. They tell us how far. They tell us how long. They tell us how patient we must be. And once this language is understood, the universe feels less hostile and more honest. Vast, yes. Distant, yes. But consistent. And consistency is something intelligence can work with. The universe may be slow, but it is readable. Every photon is a sentence. Every spectrum a paragraph. Every image a chapter written long ago. The task is not to rush to the end. It is to keep reading. Because the story does not end with understanding distance. Distance is only the beginning. By the time the scale fully settles, something profound remains. Not answers. Meaning. Distance no longer feels abstract, it becomes intimate in a strange way, a reminder that existence unfolds on layers far beyond a single lifetime. Light years change how legacy is understood. Nothing meaningful happens instantly at cosmic scale. Everything important stretches across time. Stars are born slowly, galaxies evolve patiently, even the universe itself takes billions of years to reveal its structure. Against this backdrop, urgency feels misplaced. What matters is not speed, but continuity. Every generation inherits a universe already in motion. Light that began traveling long before any observer existed continues its journey regardless of who is watching. Knowledge accumulates the same way. Slowly. Relentlessly. Past forward. This is where the light year becomes personal. A single human life is brief. A few decades if fortunate. And yet, within that brief span, the universe can be understood, not experienced directly, but comprehended. That is no small thing. To grasp that a distant star is seen as it once was. To know that the night sky is layered with history. To understand that distance and time are woven together. This awareness changes how existence feels. Life stops being isolated moments and starts feeling like participation in a larger process. A process that began long before and will continue long after. Light years make this continuity visible. They show that nothing exists alone. Every atom carries a history. Every photon carries a story. Every observation connects now to then. Even loss gains context. Stars die, but their material returns to space. Their atoms become part of new worlds. Their light continues outward, long after the source is gone. Nothing truly disappears. It transforms. This perspective softens the fear of impermanence. Individual lives are short, but the processes they belong to are ancient. Ideas survive beyond those who first thought them. Knowledge outlives its discoverers. Light years ensure this handoff. They force understanding to be collective rather than individual. No one sees the whole story. Each observer reads a fragment. Together those fragments form a picture. This is the quiet legacy of astronomy. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches that truth is often larger than any single perspective. And it does so without drama. The universe does not explain itself loudly. It does not demand attention, it simply exists, sending out light that carries information forward. Those who listen receive it. Those who wait understand it. This creates a rare kind of connection. Across centuries. Across cultures. Across entire civilizations. Observers separated by time still study the same stars. They see different moments of the same objects. They add their understanding to a growing body of knowledge. Light years bind these efforts together. A calculation made today builds on light measured long ago. A discovery tomorrow will rely on photons arriving now. Science becomes a conversation across time, not space. This continuity gives weight to curiosity. Asking questions is not wasted effort, even if answers arrive slowly, even if they arrive after the questioner is gone. The universe does not measure value by immediacy. It measures by persistence. Light years enforce this rule gently, without exception. They remind that existence is not a race, it is an unfolding. The stars do not hurry. The galaxies do not rush. Neither should understanding. In accepting this, anxiety loosens its grip. Problems shrink, perspective widens. The present moment finds its place within a longer arc. This does not make individual lives meaningless. It makes them contextual. A single thought, a single insight, a single act of curiosity becomes part of a chain that stretches across generations. That chain is carried by light. Even now, photons are leaving distant stars, carrying information no one has ever seen. They will arrive long after current lives end. They will inform minds not yet born. This is the universe's quiet promise. Not immortality, but continuity. Light years do not erase connection. They ensure it is preserved. They turn moments into messages, events into records, existence into something that can be known. And in that knowledge, meaning survives. The universe may be vast beyond comprehension, but it is not empty of purpose. Purpose is carried forward, one photon at a time. The story does not end here. It opens outward. Beyond this moment, distance continues to unfold, layer by layer, revealing scales that stretch far past stars and even galaxies. What feels vast now will soon feel small compared to what comes next. The light year is only the beginning. Ahead lies a deeper look into how astronomers measure the universe itself, how they map invisible structures using nothing but delayed light, how they turn faint signals into distances that span millions and billions of years. There is more to uncover about how galaxies cluster and drift apart, about how space itself expands, carrying worlds beyond reach, about horizons that no telescope can cross, no matter how powerful it becomes. There are stories still waiting in the darkness. Stories written in ancient photons. Stories that began when the universe was young. Soon, the scale will widen again, from nearby stars to vast spirals of galaxies, from local neighborhoods to the edge of what can ever be seen. The consequences will grow heavier. What happens to connection when distances reach millions of light years? What does it mean to observe objects that no longer exist? How does expansion change what the future universe will look like? There are questions about time itself, about beginnings and endings, about whether light from the first moments of the universe still surrounds us, quietly filling space. And there are implications for humanity, for exploration, for survival, for the long future of intelligence in a universe that keeps pulling itself apart. The journey forward will not be fast. It will not be simple. But it will be honest. Each step will push perspective farther outward, until familiar ideas begin to dissolve completely. Until distance becomes so extreme that even imagination struggles to keep up. What comes next will challenge comfort. It will challenge certainty. And it will challenge the idea that the universe was ever meant to feel close. The light year was the first fracture in intuition. What follows will break it entirely. The universe hides its most astonishing truths inside simple facts. Facts that sound harmless, until they are fully understood. A single light year contains more kilometers than there are seconds in human history. Every one of those kilometers is real space, crossed by light without pause. Light from the nearest star beyond the sun left when calendars showed different years. It has traveled non-stop ever since, passing through regions colder and emptier than anything on Earth, never slowing, never aging. When distant galaxies are observed, their light is stretched by the expansion of space itself. The universe grows while photons are in flight, lengthening their wavelength and reddening their color. Space changes the message before it arrives. Some of the light reaching Earth tonight began its journey before the sun was born. It has crossed intergalactic voids where a single atom may drift for years without meeting another. Every direction in the sky holds a limit. Beyond a certain distance, space expands faster than light can cross it. Entire regions of the universe exist forever beyond reach, no matter how long one waits. The oldest light visible is not from stars, but from a time before stars existed. A faint glow fills all of space, the afterimage of a universe once hot and dense, still cooling after billions of years. Even gravity respects light years. Changes in massive objects do not act instantly. If a star vanished, its gravitational influence would continue as a memory, moving outward at light speed. The Milky Way itself is not solid. Stars orbit slowly, completing a single rotation over hundreds of millions of years. Entire civilizations could rise and fall, while the galaxy barely shifts. Light years reveal that the universe is mostly empty. If every star were removed, almost nothing would change locally. Space would still be space. Distance would still dominate. Nothing seen in the sky is guaranteed to still exist as observed. Stability is an illusion created by delay. The universe is always in motion, just not on human timescales. These facts are not meant to intimidate. They are meant to reframe. They show that reality is deeper, slower, and larger than instinct suggests, and that understanding it requires patience equal to its scale. Understanding light years leaves a quiet imprint. Not confusion, not fear, but perspective. The universe is not built for speed, it is built for continuity. Everything meaningful unfolds slowly, carried forward by light, preserved by distance, revealed only to those willing to wait. Light years remind us that we live inside a story far larger than ourselves, a story written in stars, stretched across time, and still unfolding. We are not separate from it, we are part of it. Every question asked matters. Every discovery adds a line. Every moment of curiosity keeps the story alive. The cosmos does not rush. And neither should understanding. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Cosmic Curiosity, where we explore the universe through the eyes of those brave enough to venture into the unknown. The cosmos is vast, but every story matters. See you among the stars. Time keeps moving forward, even after understanding settles in. The universe does not pause once a truth is learned, it continues to expand, to cool, to change, quietly carrying everything with it. Light years are not frozen measurements, they grow as space grows. Distances between distant galaxies increase not because those galaxies are racing away, but because the space between them is stretching moment by moment. This means the universe of the future will look different from the universe of today. Some galaxies that are visible now will one day fade beyond reach. Their light will stretch, weaken, and finally fail to arrive. Not because they disappear, but because space carries them away faster than light can close the gap. The night sky will slowly empty. Stars close to home will remain, nearby galaxies will still glow. But the deep universe will thin, leaving fewer distant lights to tell ancient stories. This is not a sudden loss. It is a slow fading, unfolding over billions of years. Civilizations that arise far in the future will inherit a quieter sky, fewer clues, less evidence of the wider universe. They may never know how vast it once appeared. Understanding light years today means understanding this privilege. We live at a time when the universe is still visible in depth, when ancient light still reaches us, when the story is still readable across immense distances. That window will not stay open forever. This makes observation urgent in a different way, not rushed but timely. There are things that can be known only now before distance and expansion hide them permanently. The universe is generous, but not endlessly so. Every photon that arrives is a gift from a past that cannot be revisited. Every measurement is a record of something that may never be seen again. Light years preserve history, but they also erase access over time. This tension defines the long future of knowledge. What is learned now may become impossible to learn later. What is recorded now may become the only trace of regions that drift beyond reach. The universe does not keep backups. Understanding this changes how discovery feels. It becomes an act of preservation as much as curiosity. To observe is to save something from being lost to expansion. This is the deeper responsibility hidden inside distance. Light years are not just measures of separation, they are measures of opportunity, They mark how much of the universe remains visible, reachable, knowable. And that amount is slowly shrinking. The universe grows larger, but our window into it grows smaller. This is not tragedy. It is evolution. Every era has its limits. Every moment has its horizon. Ours is defined by light years. And within that horizon there is still so much to understand. Even with all this distance, something remarkable remains true. The universe is not silent. It speaks constantly, not in words but in signals, in light, in gravity, in faint traces that cross unimaginable spans of space without losing their story. Light years do not block information. They delay it. Every photon carries a record of conditions where it began: temperature, motion, composition, history encoded in color and energy. By reading that light, the universe reveals itself without ever needing to be touched. This is how knowledge travels farther than any spacecraft ever could. Telescopes do not chase stars. They wait, they listen, they collect messages that arrive late but intact, messages sent long before any observer existed. This turns astronomy into a kind of archaeology. The deeper the view, the older the evidence. Galaxies appear younger, structures look less settled. Matter arranges itself more simply, complexity builds with time. Looking farther out means looking farther back. Light years transform distance into a timeline. This allows something extraordinary. The universe can be studied at multiple ages at once. Nearby objects show maturity, distant ones reveal youth. All are visible together in the same sky. No other science has access to this. History is not inferred. It is observed. This is why light years matter so deeply. They allow reconstruction of cosmic evolution without ever leaving one planet. They let understanding outrun travel. And yet, there is a limit. Beyond a certain distance, light cannot reach us at all. The early universe becomes opaque. The first moments remain hidden behind physical barriers that no instrument can cross. There are truths that will never be observed directly. This does not weaken knowledge. It defines it. Understanding grows not by eliminating mystery, but by mapping where mystery begins. By knowing what can be known, and what cannot. Light years draw that boundary clearly. They show where information arrives too late. Where expansion outruns communication. Where causality itself breaks contact. This boundary is not failure. It is structure. It means the universe is ordered, even in its limits, that there are rules governing what can influence what. Within those rules, everything unfolds consistently. Light years enforce fairness. No observer has access to everything. No vantage point reveals all. Every perspective is partial, shaped by position and time. This prevents any single view from becoming absolute. Understanding becomes collective, built across generations, across locations, across methods. Each observer contributes a piece. The universe is too large for ownership. It can only be shared. This shared understanding is humanity's quiet achievement. Despite being confined to one planet, knowledge now spans billions of light years, not physically but intellectually. That reach is unprecedented. It proves that exploration does not always require movement. Sometimes it requires patience, precision, willingness to wait for light to arrive. The cosmos does not reward haste. It rewards attention. Light years make that clear. They slow everything down until only careful observation works, until curiosity replaces urgency. And in that slowing, meaning emerges. There is a final shift that happens when distance is truly understood. It is subtle, almost quiet. The universe stops feeling like a place to conquer and starts feeling like a place to respect. Light years teach restraint. They show that some frontiers are not meant to be crossed quickly, or at all, not because of weakness but because of design. The universe is structured in a way that values separation as much as connection. This reframes ambition. Exploration is no longer about arrival. It becomes about understanding, about learning what can be learned from where one stands. Humanity's greatest reach may never be measured in kilometers traveled, but in insight gained. Light years make that clear. Even without leaving the solar system, knowledge has already crossed billions of years and unimaginable distances. Telescopes have seen galaxies as they were when the universe was young. Instruments have detected echoes from the first moments after creation. No spacecraft has ever gone that far. No human ever will. And yet, understanding already has. This changes how progress is defined. Not as expansion across space, but as depth across time. Not as speed, but as clarity. The universe is not waiting to be reached. It is waiting to be understood. Light years also teach patience in a deeper sense. Civilizations rise and fall quickly compared to cosmic time. Entire cultures exist for less than the blink of a galactic orbit. Measured against light years, even the longest human histories are brief. This does not diminish them. It contextualizes them. Meaning is not reduced by scale, it is refined by it. A single decision still matters. A single discovery still matters. A single act of curiosity still matters. Because all understanding begins locally. Every insight starts on a small world, with limited perspective, asking questions of a much larger reality. That is enough. The universe does not require observers to be large, only attentive. Light years also force honesty about limits. There are places humanity will never visit, conversations that will never happen, worlds that will never be known directly. Accepting this is not surrender. It is maturity. Civilizations that endure learn which dreams to pursue and which to release. They learn the difference between possibility and fantasy. Light years draw that line gently but firmly. They remind that imagination is free, but reality has structure. Within that structure there is still wonder, perhaps even more wonder. Because knowing that something cannot be reached makes its existence no less real. It simply exists independently, without reference to observers. That independence gives the universe dignity. Stars do not shine for attention. Galaxies do not form for witnesses. The universe does not exist to be seen. And yet it can be seen. That is the quiet miracle. Against overwhelming odds, consciousness arose on at least one small planet. A form of matter learned to look outward and ask what lies beyond. Light years did not stop that curiosity. They shaped it. They taught that knowledge arrives slowly, that answers come delayed, that certainty is rare and precious. They taught humility. And humility is what allows understanding to last. A civilization that respects scale does not panic at slowness. It does not demand instant answers from a universe that operates on billion-year clocks. It learns to think long. Light years encourage that mindset. They suggest futures measured not in election cycles or generations but in epochs. They invite planning that assumes continuity rather than urgency. This is not optimism. It is realism. The universe rewards those who align with its pace. Those who listen rather than rush. Those who measure rather than assume. Light years also quietly redefine belonging. Earth is not isolated because it is alone, it is isolated because everything is far apart. This is not rejection. It is geometry. The same distances that separate worlds also protect them. The same vastness that limits contact preserves diversity. Each planet becomes its own experiment. Each civilization its own expression of possibility. Light years ensure that no single outcome dominates. They allow the universe to remain varied. This gives weight to existence here. What happens on this planet may never happen anywhere else in the same way. The specific combination of history, environment, and chance that produced humanity may be unique within thousands of light years. That uniqueness matters. Not because it is superior, but because it is irreplaceable. Light years make replacement impossible. They turn every inhabited world into a rare event. This perspective reshapes responsibility. Care for this planet becomes more than self-interest. It becomes stewardship of something that cannot easily be recreated. There is no nearby backup. No easy second chance. Light years make escape unlikely. They make care essential. And still, they do not demand despair. They invite focus. Everything needed for meaning is already close. Relationships, knowledge, creativity, understanding. The universe does not require proximity to be profound. It requires awareness. Light years do not diminish significance. They clarify it. They show where effort is best spent, where attention matters, where impact is real. Understanding this does not close the future. It opens it in a different direction. Not outward without limit, but inward with depth. Not faster, but wiser. And that may be the most important lesson distance has to offer. Because in a universe measured in light years, wisdom travels farther than any ship ever could. The journey ends where understanding becomes quiet. Not with certainty, not with control, but with acceptance. Light years remain what they have always been, vast, unforgiving, honest. They do not bend to desire or ambition, they simply describe reality as it is. And reality is large. Larger than instinct. Larger than comfort. Larger than any single story. Yet within that enormity meaning still exists. It exists because distance does not erase connection, it transforms it. Light carries information forward, patiently, without concern for who receives it or when. The universe does not aim its messages, it broadcasts them equally in all directions. Those who listen, learn. This is the quiet contract between cosmos and consciousness. Nothing is promised. Nothing is withheld. Understanding is earned through attention. Light years ensure that knowledge cannot be rushed. That insight must be built, layer by layer, generation by generation. They prevent shortcuts. They reward persistence. They also remind that existence does not revolve around observers. Stars live and die without witnesses. Galaxies collide without ceremony. Space expands without announcement. The universe does not wait. And yet, it allows itself to be known. That allowance is rare. Across trillions of kilometers and billions of years, some information still arrives. Some stories still reach this small world. Some truths still cross the darkness intact. That is enough. Humanity does not need to touch every star to belong to the universe. It does not need to conquer distance to matter within it. To understand is to participate. Every measurement, every question, every attempt to comprehend scale is an act of alignment with reality, a refusal to pretend the universe is smaller than it is. Light years enforce honesty. They strip away illusion. They collapse arrogance. They leave clarity. In that clarity, priorities change. What happens here matters. Who we are to each other matters. What we preserve matters. Because there is no quick escape. No nearby replacement. No second Earth waiting just beyond reach. Light years make this planet precious, by making alternatives distant. They turn responsibility into necessity. And still, they do not demand fear. They allow awe. Awe that comes from knowing that the same laws shaping distant galaxies shape every atom here. That the same light illuminating ancient stars once passed through space that would one day form eyes capable of seeing it. The universe produced observers. Not as a goal. Not as an end point. But as a possibility. And that possibility happened here. Light years did not prevent that. They framed it. They gave scale to existence and depth to awareness. They made small moments meaningful precisely because they are small. Against infinity, attention becomes valuable. Against eternity, choice matters. This is the final gift of understanding distance. Not despair. Not insignificance. But perspective. The universe is vast beyond comprehension. And within it, understanding exists. That is not nothing. That is extraordinary.